everybody. I thought I'd make another video about Kete Whakairo. Now my last one was it's a couple of years old now, thrown in at the deep end, and lovely pattern, you know, the whole thing for experienced weavers only, the whole shebang. This is still for experienced weavers who have woven before. However, I thought I make a new one from a different angle, so because quite a few people sort of say, well, it's easier if you do it from behind or beside rather than front, which makes sense, you know, we all learn. So what we're going to do is one of these. Now, when I first learned how to make one of those, it was called middle kete, but simply because there's a middle part and there's a top and the bottom part. So, you know, you basically slightly different. It won't be in these colors. It will be all natural. So, handles, muka handles, about the same size. This is 60 whenu. Or 60 of these wide whenu rather, they're 12 millimeter, 1.2 centimeter. That's what I call my normal width. And then we go to the other part. So get your whenu ready. Welcome back, everybody. So middle kete. Excuse me. So I've got 60 whenu here. These are from two different bushes. As you can see, they're quite different in color. This is a natural sort of browning of one of the bushes. I don't even know what variety these are, but this one is quite nice and almost white, and this is sort of brown, and I thought we can use it instead of using color. So for a middle kete, we lay them the same way as a regular Kete Whakairo. Difference being, we start fairly high up, right? Sort of almost like a third, there you go, you can see it better, about a third up. And lay them as per usual, over one, under one. And I'm laying one variety in one direction and the other variety in the other to kind of give it a little bit of a depth in terms of color. And we continue with this until we used all of the whenu up. So, all laid out. We've got quite a bit of length down here in order to lock off and also in order to split. But before we do that, we secure this. So as always, if you watch my videos, they're for people who have woven before, so they're not for beginners. There are some videos on how to prepare this material, New Zealand flax, harakeke, formium tenax. But you can use other materials as well. You can use cardboard, plastic, pandanus, probably bark, lily, anything that kind of strips into nice length and is a little bit pliable, you know. So I'm just securing these ends at the moment, just so it doesn't fall apart when I turn it over, because that's the next step, we're turning it over. Right, that will do. There we go. Pretty straightforward. And then the next thing we have to do, because that's where the name comes from. So this is the middle of our kete, our bag. And And this is the wider width. This is 1.2 centimeters, 12 millimeters. That is what I call my normal width. I prep most of my whenu, most of my strips in this width, because you can, it's very versatile. You can make a lot of things out of it depending on the length. In this instance, we're using a tiny little drawing pen. And we split these right in the middle. One direction first, and then the other. So we split them in both directions. I have also brought the ones going from right to left up to the front, because if you're right-handed and you Kete Whakairo weaver, and that's the way I've been taught. We weave in that direction. I've left these end ones unsplit on the other side as well, because we need them when we join, and there's no mate to go along with it. So yeah. So now comes the tricky bit. Well, it's not really tricky. Now comes the interesting bit. So you just, that's why these on top makes it so much easier. Also when we do general Kete Whakairo, it just keeps them nice and out of the way. Right. So these are split, right? So we use the first one, or first half, over the top, bring this one back, and that one in. So it's a simple one in, and back, back. So we still continue with over one, under one, only that first one, this one, essentially now goes over two, because there's now two. And that's really all there is in terms of splitting. We split a lot, for example, when we make certain types of portai hats, we also split. It's just a nice thing to know how to do. And so you continue with this until you've incorporated all of these. Remember, this is the bottom of your kete. So other people do it differently. I've been taught to, finish the bottom first and then do the top. Or rather, weave as much as you can before joining, rather than joining too early and then either your pattern doesn't work out, or it's much easier to weave flat on the table. What I also do is I tend to lock the bottom off as far as I can already before joining. That way the tension stays the same, and it doesn't fall apart. So there's no need, when I do it, there is no need for any of those things that other people use to hold the tension of. Everybody is different, so I don't do any of those little whatu, or I don't use weights, or I don't use tons of pegs. I just it comes a little bit with experience, but whatever suits you, whatever works for you is good. There is no such thing as right or wrong when it comes to weaving. Right. There you go. Gives you a better idea. There you go. There it is. Over two, and then just weave it in. Pretty straightforward. go. So the split is all done. This is all on the dull side, by the way. I mean, you know, when I turned it over first. Simply because I will lock off the bottom soon. But because, you know, my kete is going to be, you know, a decent size, so I want to get a little bit more depth at the bottom. So what I'll do now is I add probably another 4 or 5 rows of takitahi onto the bottom, takitahi being over one, under one, before I lock the bottom off. So just as before, just turn all these over. If they don't want to stay where they are, just put something down, up to you. Right. Sometimes I use a towel. And then we just takitahi all the way. And just add another couple of rows until we're happy with what it looks like. Rightio. So here we are. You know, if you sort of use the scissors as a bit of a guideline, it's not quite a third, but I'm running out of length here at the bottom. So what we do now is locking off. Now, as you probably know, with Kete Whakairo, you have 2 stages of locking the bottom off. You have to first, you know, lock these ones, essentially. Sorry, the ones actually underneath. And then when you finally join the kete into a cylinder, that's when you do the final lock off. Now, there are, I don't know, 5, 6, 10 different ways of doing this. Every single weaver got their own way. I even change them every so often, so I'm just showing you the way I do these ones in particular, and even that I change depending on the kete, so don't take this as gospel. And I got myself a old towel just to keep these a little bit in check. Sort of helps. So basically the same, almost the same way as what I call a normal double lock. However, so building up to it, in order to have 2 up, 2 down, is per normal. So now we have 2 up, 2 down. 1, 5. 2 up, 2 down. So down being that way, up being that way. 1 across. So this is what I call a double lock. Normally you would go like this, turn this one in on whatever degree this is. This one goes up, and then you would take this one in. Now we leave these ones out. We don't tuck them in just yet. And as an added bonus, I actually make this one a 3 up, 3 down. I'll show you why later. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? 3 up, 3 down. 1 comes across, that one stays. This one sort of, whatever degree this is, comes in. Just locks that one in. Down, up, new one. 3 up, 3 down, next one. So we continue with this all the way. Rightio, here we are. Nicely locked off. A bit wonky, but it will do. So the reason why I've done 3 rather than 2 here is that is basically going to be the base of my kete, of my bag. And so you've got to imagine there's another piece there, so it's going to hopefully be about this wide. If you only do it 2, it will be a bit narrow, so it will be, you know, either this way or that way. There is another couple of ways how to increase the width of the base. You can do a single lock and then start again and lock off, and then, you know, on that single lock that will be your base. So there's different ways of doing this, but that's just one of them. So I've locked this off. These are staying there. That's going to be for the final lock. And now turn it around again. Right? And now we need to split these ones. So the idea is we have the narrow width at the bottom and the same narrow width at the top. And in the middle we have the wider width. That's why it's called a middle kete. I'm sure there is another name for it somewhere. But that's the way I've been taught. And so that's why I'm using it. And here you can already see the pattern simply because of the natural color of the flax of the harakeke. So you can see the difference already. I might actually put a little row of takirua in for you to see it even better. So the idea is leave those ones here whole because we need them once we join. And all the other one who already have a mate in that direction that you can weave in, they can get split. And we use our pin again. And we start doing all of these and then all of the others. So don't try and do both at the same time. Be nice and tidy. There we go. So all split, except the ones on either side. And now we pull these back again, just like before. Got my towel on here. There you go. So you use that on. Over this. Grab half of it. Up. Down. Basically over two, but they will become one. Over. So now, same as before, you basically just have an over one, under one, just with a more narrow width. It's pretty straightforward once you come to think of it. There you go. You can do this all the way to the end. Right, so that's all done. And now we put in a row of or two takirua, just so it brings out this nice color here. And then we probably another about the same width takitahi, and then we lock off. You can, if you want, you can put a different band of pattern, depending if your kete is really, really big. You can really, you know, make it special. Put another band of pattern in somewhere. Up to you. So takirua, over two, under two, right? Over two, under two. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Well, I think it's pretty straightforward, but it's one of the first patterns we learn, really, apart from takitahi, over one, under one. Over two, under two is very there you go, two, 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 two. So essentially the name comes from, see, over two, under two, over two, under two, over two. And then I just pull one up, one down, one up, one down, to have again under two, over two, under two, over two. So we're reading the pattern from there to there, but we're weaving it that way, if that makes sense. I'm going up that way. We keep what we call the ara. So we don't go higher than this last one up here. It's very important. That way you keep a nice straight line. You know, most of my videos, well actually all of them, are meant for people who have woven before, who would be familiar with the concept, but I have heard from some people overseas in particular who are not familiar with this concept, so that's how we keep this line straight. So we don't go above that. That's why we're weaving from top to bottom. So there you go. So we've done 2 rows of takirua and then another 3, I think, takitahi. And we could join right now. Yes, we could. But I prefer locking off as much as what I can while it's still in this state, e.g. flat. Less chance of things falling apart. This is alright with the small kete, but if you make something larger, you have to use a lot of these pins or pegs. So I turn this around again. So this is the dull side. And I just lock these sides off. Same as down here essentially. You know, building up to 2 over, 2 up, 2 down. Same sort of thing. Right, now there, turning this in, and so on and so forth, leaving these ones out. So I'll do that now, and then we get to the next step, the joining. Rightio, so I've locked this little bit off. You know, there are, I don't know, hundreds of different ways of locking off, inside, outside, over 3, over 2, over 1. That's why I really don't go into that much detail about this process. This is going to be quite a large or high oblong kind of kete, but anyway, so to join for Kete Whakairo, you know, at the moment we've got a flat piece of weaving, right? So in order to make it a bag, we somehow need to join it. And because the way I've been taught, and mostly, not all the time, weave these, we turn them over. So the shiny side is facing us. And then we use, well I use, an old book that I wrapped in just plastic and tape. I used to have a dictionary. It was really, really nice, and an old Auckland phone book, but they got lost when my house burned down. So I think this is Harry Potter. So this is just to hold the shape. Now some people use a towel, or I don't know what else, but or nothing at all. I find this really nice because it gives a nice solid base on which to weave on. And so what we'll do is we kind of put our book there, right? And see these unsplit whenu, getting a bit dry now. Pull them over and put the other one next to it, right? And then put them more back. Hold it. I put my little towel here, and now we just basically weave these in. That's what a join is all about. You can still kind of manipulate it in terms of shape and you know how you get on while they're pretty loose. But that's your standard, or I call it standard Kete Whakairo join. Now again, there's many other ways of doing this. I'm not the only one who makes them this way, but there's plenty of people who make them differently as well. So, right. So now we kind of have almost, I'll show you, almost a bag shape. See? So obviously we need to finish, you know, weave this bit and that bit. And for that, I normally, same as when I start, I normally finish the bottom first and then concentrate on the top. So I just put some of those bobby pins in. There you go, here in the middle, just so it keeps its shape, right? And then I turn it around. And for a start, see, like those ones, they are still unsplit. And then of course we need to split those ones that we haven't split yet. Right. And so on. And then as we did before, over the two, there you go. That's really all there is in terms of joining and splitting at the same time. And then when you've done a couple of rows like so, don't try and do it all in one go. It's just easier to keep the tension and the shape if you do them bit by bit, not all at once. And you can take those middle pins out and take these other out as you go, and then until you come up where you want to lock off, and do the rest of your lock off as well. And yeah, so when you're at the end, all you really need to do is tuck these end bits in. Now I use a little carpet needle to help because they're getting quite narrow there. But you know, any kind of instrument that helps. There you go. So see, now you need to basically tuck them in where they would normally go. So you just imagine it would normally go under this one, and under this one. And since that one is already tucked in, you somehow, there you go, tuck it in. Pretty straightforward really, if you come to think of it. So the bottom is locked off, and you know, I cut these end bits off a little bit, and now we get to the top bit here. Okay. So these are still not split, so that's the thing we do first, split them. And one more, there we go, that's that. Got our book in the middle. It gives a nice solid base, right? And just like we done before, start a little bit, don't go further up, because it just makes it sort of keep you control. Do it in little stages. If you go too far up, it's very easy to lose, especially later on if you want to make nicer, bigger patterns. It's very easy to lose track of where you are if you go too far up in one go. So I keep it at the beginning especially, you know, keep it to those, over one, under one, as per before, after splitting. And so I do this until I reach the other end here, and then start again and work my way in stages until I reach the lock off stage as before. And then we lock off. So that's the top finished. Basically the same, just tuck in as if you just do a normal lock off. So you don't have any spares. So at the moment it's still kind of a, you know, in order to make it a bag. So now this is the top. So this will get locked off last. And this is the bottom. Now again, there are so many different ways of doing this that you know, I normally don't show this, but there is one way, is how I've been shown, is in order to remember it easier, it's just, you know, how you have two sides, right? So these two need somehow been put together. Some people make a plait, a whiri. There's different ways of doing it. So the way I was shown originally was just to pull in each middle here, pull one from the other side. You see? Pull one in, right, and then plait. Now that's a damn good idea. I quite like it, but that's not how I do it usually. Now I basically just do a normal double lock, like I've done on this and down here as well. So I pull through two, right? And then I've got two up, two down, and this one from this side comes across, right? And then it's just a matter of locking it off like we would normally do it. I pull one over, there you go. I use my index finger for that. There we go. Over, up, down. There you go. Over, across, lock it. A bit better to see. So I use my index finger here. Right, bring one over. Here you go. Open up, bring one over here. So right, I'm at the end now. So I've got 4 left. Now there are some really cool ways of finishing this, but you know, don't make your life harder than it really is. You know what's a really good thing to do is a knot. A simple couple of knots. There you go. There you go. And then what you need to do is, maybe depending on how your edge looks, maybe tidy it up a little bit and then cut these ends off. And then we'll deal with the top. Right, bottom is done, top. So remember, this is the inside. So some people prefer to finish the outside, so they would have had to turn it twice. Or you could do the bottom as well on the outside. Well, I personally wouldn't, but I know some people who do. They do a different finish, and then it looks actually really neat on the outside as well. So they wouldn't have to have that very last stage. That means we have to turn this inside out essentially, or outside in. Now, I normally, when I do a whiri, so this is it. So these are the either sides of it. So I normally start my whiri or my plait on one of the sides. It just unless I do it on the outside and I want a different finish. That's why I normally don't show this part, because there's so many different varieties of how to do this, and I virtually never show how to attach handles, because same sort of thing, there's 100 different ways of attaching handles, and I was never shown how to attach handles. Our tutors basically said, be creative, have a trial, what works, because handle attachment is different to each project that you do. Now, what works for a small kete like this might not work at all for something larger that has a lot of more weight to bear. So you have to, you know, adjust the way you make your handles and the way you attach them depending on the product. And so I'll just show you how I start this 30, and at the end I do the same thing as I've done before. I just tuck things in. So essentially it's just a simple 3-plait, one from either side. Hang on. See? Somewhere, grab one, grab another one, and then I grab another one, and that's a simple 3-plait. And then I just add, normally I add underneath, but some people add on top, that's up to you, and then you can turn it in and just continue like so. See? And then when it becomes too thick, you can drop them from the bottom. That's really it. That's one of the ways of doing it, but there's hundreds of different ways of doing it. So I don't want to go into detail how to do the top at the moment, because it's just next thing I'm getting emails, oh, but you didn't show this one, and you didn't show that one, and you didn't show this, and because there are so many different ways, but essentially this is what you're looking for. A simple corn braid, or whatever you call it, plait. Rightio, so top is done, handles, I put them this time, I put them in. They're a bit wonky, they're not quite even. So it's still inside out, and in order to turn it the right side around, you know, you just need to be careful and kind of start in the corners. And that corner. And this obviously doesn't work with every material, so that's why your lock off, you know, might be on the outside if you use something that's not quite as forgiving. It's almost like magic, this kind of thing. Right. Tidy it up as far as you go. And then you can shape it a little bit more, depending how you want your bottom to look like, or your top, or you know, whatever you want. You know, if you want this bottom here to be a little bit wider, then you just sort of shape it out a little bit. If you want it narrower, it's the other way around. There are a number of ways of doing this. But essentially, that's it. It's, you know, shape it a little bit once I'm off camera, but yeah, that's essentially what it is. Here we go. That's a bit cleaned up, put in shape. Quite wide bottom. No. Inside. Decent size. I call this a handbag size, you know, so you don't overload it. So, well done. Show me yours. Happy weaving.